think, plan, trust in God. There are almost always alternatives if you will avoid this victimization culture. It's constantly saying, "Oh, it's not my fault." Well, maybe that's true. So how do you avoid being a victim? Well, you don't wait for someone else to save you.
Amen.
You cry out to God for wisdom. Don't wait for someone else to save you. Cry out to God for wisdom and then act. Do something. Act. And keep on acting. Do the next thing. Keep on going. I think this is a quote from a movie which I watched briefly, kind of fast. I was only halfway paying attention. Finding Nemo. There was a little bit of a problem. A little bit of a problem. And the answer came back, keep on swimming. Just keep on swimming. So that's good. That might be good advice. Just keep on doing something that appears to be useful and helpful now. And if the mountain and problem is this big, and you say, "I can't solve it," maybe you can make it smaller and smaller and smaller until then you finally say, "Well, maybe there is a way around this problem." Keep on swimming. Keep on acting. Keep on planning. Don't be a victim. Amen. Build your legacy. So that's what's meant by intentional. You have to be intentionally moving forward. Now let me give you an example from Scripture. And this is a great story. Turn with me to the book of Judges. I'd like to introduce you to Caleb. Now you may remember Caleb was one of two men, Caleb and Joshua, who had great confidence in entering the land of Canaan. Now, in the book of Judges chapter 1, we're going to meet Caleb again. Now, this is not Caleb as a young man in Judges chapter 1. This man, Caleb, is now quite old. He is probably in excess of 80 years old. And yet, Caleb has a legacy in mind. He's not done yet. He has a legacy in mind for his children and his grandchildren and his future offspring. And he has decided this is a moment and here's an opportunity. There is a problem here, but I'm going to take advantage of the situation to move forward with as much energy as I can and encourage others. And we're going to do something good and noble and great, which I won't reap the benefit of, but I will leave a legacy that one day my grandchildren and great-grandchildren may say, "Bless that old guy Caleb," because he left a legacy of faith, a legacy of action. Now in Judges chapter 1, look at verse 12. The children of Israel were entering the land of Canaan. They ran into all kinds of Jebusites, Canaanites, Hittites, all kinds of these folks that they needed to rid. They had to fight them all. Now this is what Caleb said. Verse 12. Caleb said, now here's a city that's there. It's a city. It's a piece of land. And Caleb wants it, and God says, "It's yours, but you got to go get it. You can have it if you go get it." Caleb says, "He that smiteth Kirjath Sepher and taketh it, to him will I give Achsah my daughter to wife." And back think, "Oh, wow, I wonder if he asked her." Well, you're going to discover she doesn't seem to object to this plan. And Othniel, the son of Kenaz, Caleb's younger brother, took it. And he gave him Achsah, his daughter, to wife. He apparently liked this plan just fine. After all, Caleb said, "Look, I've got a city. I want somebody to take it. They get my wife as a prize." That pretty much guarantees that the man who takes the city and gets Achsah, she's pretty much guaranteed a husband who is very brave, very bold, and very competent. Which in those days, that's a pretty good bargain for a young lady. So she's okay with this. But let's see, she's a lady of legacy too. Because she comes to Caleb in the next verse. "And it came to pass, when she came to him, that she moved him to ask of her father a field. And she lighted off her ass, and Caleb said to her, What wilt thou? And she said to him, Give me a blessing, for thou hast given me a south land. Give me also springs of water. And Caleb gave her the upper springs and the nether springs. So we see a lady of legacy, as we have a multi-generational plan unfolding, in which they're trying to root themselves in the land, and they need resources. They need water in a relatively dry land. She's planning for the future, just like her father is planning for the future. A future that he probably isn't going to enjoy much. But she's planning for the future because she plans on carrying on this legacy. Now, the legacy goes on to be rather grand and glorious because, if you'd like to flip over to Judges chapter 3, the man that Asa won for a husband, or maybe you could say won her for a wife, is a rather prominent gentleman. In Judges chapter 3, and beginning at verse 9, let's read a little bit more about this man. It says, when the children of Israel cried to the Lord raised up a deliverer to the children of Israel who delivered them, even Othniel, the son of Kenaz, Caleb's younger brother. He became the next judge in Israel. And the Spirit of the Lord came upon him. He judged Israel, went out to war. The Lord delivered Chushan-Rishathaim, king of Mesopotamia, what a mouthful, into his hand. And his hand prevailed against Chushan-Rishathaim. The land had rest 40 years, and Othniel, the son of Kenaz, died. So for 40 years, Othniel carried on this family legacy. It was a grand one, a glorious one. It left them a permanent place in the record of Israel. One of great honor, one of action, one of visions, multi-generational legacy. Now, these are our examples. Now, one of the things we've got to be aware of is that any legacy that you wish to build, whatever intentional legacy you desire and plan and dream of, you've got to be ready for some disappointments. You've got to be prepared emotionally for disappointments and disturbances. You're going to have to alter the plans, perhaps, and then get them back on track. So you may have an obstacle that you're going to have to first shrink it down so that you can then work your way around it and get back on track again. It's going to happen. We need to be ready to respond in a mature way and deal with these types of a crisis. Now let's consider crisis for a moment. A crisis often emerges because a problem has been ignored for a long period. Now, there are many, many illustrations of this in life. If you reach a financial crisis in your life, it might be truly unavoidable. But not all of them are. In fact, most financial crises that enter a person's life is because they have lived beyond their means for quite some time, and all of a sudden, that can't happen anymore, and now we have a financial calamity. Sometimes a crisis can be avoided. Not always, but sometimes it can. So if there's a problem, and you know in your heart there's a serious problem in the life of you or your family, and you say, I'd just like to ignore that. There's going to come a day, perhaps, that you will no longer be able to ignore it, and it's going to be bigger than it ever was. Let me give you an illustration of what I'm talking about. Some of you may recall Mount St. Helens erupting in the year 1980. If you recall it, then you have a little age on you, I guess. At any rate, that happened on May 18th, 1980. There are 57 people that died in that explosion because they were near or on the mountain. Many of them had been given warnings to avoid the mountain. Geologists had noticed things were happening, and they'd been trying to get people to leave the mountain. There was one gentleman. His name was Harry Truman. Not Harry Truman, the president. A different Harry Truman. He was living alone on that mountain with 16 cats. Officials had repeatedly asked Truman to leave the mountain and presumably take his cats with him. But he owned a lovely home on the banks of Spirit Lake. His wife had passed away. And he said, I'm going to stay right here because, why, I tell you, my home is here, my life is here. My wife and I, we both vowed years and years ago we'd never leave Spirit Lake. We love it. It's part of me, and I'm part of that mountain. He did not know, I guess, how much a part of that mountain he was about to become. Because on May 18th, his home was hit by a mud and snow avalanche, and his remains were never found. He's still part of that mountain. Now that sounds rather poetic, but a wiser man would have thought about what he could leave behind in a legacy. And he would have done, I think this would have been a better choice. He could pack up his 16 cats. He could pack up all his photos. He could pack up all his heirlooms. He could rent a U-Haul, pile all that stuff in the back of the truck. He could check his homeowner's insurance, and he could leave and survive. And then he could come back and rebuild and leave a legacy. Nothing survived his choice to remain. Nothing. His children have nothing. He could have rebuilt. That's an illustration, though, of someone who knew that a crisis was coming. Said, well, yeah, I'm just going to bury my head in the sand, keep my fingers crossed, and let it go. Let it happen. Let it occur. I think that's unwise. More than that, I think it's probably, at some degree, there's a measure of irresponsibility. Denial is not a solution. Denial makes problems worse. If you want to build a legacy, you can't live in denial when there are obstacles and problems that lie before us. And let me look at some of the elements of a family legacy. There's many elements. And these elements are unique expressions of a family that make it valuable. Some of these might seem to be little things, but all of them together reinforce the identity of your family, of your clan. And that's why knowing who your grandparents were, your parents, and you, all of this is part of this legacy. All these threads are going to come together that we're going to talk about here that make for a unique and valuable legacy. Because every family has an identity. Some are probably clear and easy to articulate. Other families probably have a sort of an ambiguous identity, but are no less real. Some families might even be a little schizophrenic or inconsistent. But all this legacy comes down to a couple different elements. One, your relationship with your Creator. Number two, your relationship with other members of your family. And three, your relationship with, shall we say, yourself. How you identify yourself. Now, there are something called the 3 Ds that help identify family and the potential of a legacy. Number one, what are sometimes called the delights of a family. What does your family enjoy doing together? What do they like doing together? Like listening to music together? They like camping together? They like playing sports together? They like watching old movies together? Do you like exchanging family stories? Do you like just visiting together? Perhaps you like a little philosophizing. Maybe you're a family that enjoys reading and debating lofty philosophical notions. What are the delights of your family? Number two, what are the disciplines of your family? What are the protocols that govern your daily family life? What is it that everybody expects every family member to do in this house and in this general family and in this clan? What are the daily expectations you have? You get up, go to work every day? That's probably a pretty good protocol. It's a daily family expectation. Or, on the contrast, maybe you have a family expectation that you wake up and you go nowhere until later in the month you go down to pick up your welfare check. That's not such a great family legacy that's being built, is it? But every family has its protocols, its expectations. Some of them are seemingly little and insignificant. Some are more important. What are the deeds? Finally, the third deed. What are the deeds of the family? The deeds are the way your family invests in the lives of others. In the lives of not only each other, but in the lives of a larger community around you. Because all of us are part of a larger community of some sort. Of which this congregation here this morning, we are that larger community for most of us here this morning. So, how do you invest in that larger community? What are the family expectations in terms of contributing to the greater community? For example, in my family, I have an expectation, just my little nuclear family. When my children turn 12, they join the choir. That's just a duty and a deed that I expect of them. I don't ask if they're a good singer. I don't ask if they want to sing. They just join the choir. I can't keep them in choir when they're grown. Well, I'm going to keep them in choir when they're in my house. Amen. So, that's just me. I'm not saying you have to do that. I'm just saying, what expectations do you put? What are the deeds that your family does for a larger community? You say, well, I can't think of hardly any. That's a bit of a problem. That's not building much of a legacy. Now, there are many other things. Consider these aspects that make your family unique. How about humor? Is your house, is your home, is it a place of humor, joy? Is your house filled with the kind of humor that's mockery and sarcasm? Or is it a better type of humor?
None.
In which there's a lot of joy and happiness. Is true happiness in your home? Is it a home that's filled with happiness? Is your home one of hospitality? Is your home open and inviting others? What are the sounds that fill your home? Are the sounds that fill your home sounds of violence? Sounds of anger? Sounds of happiness? Is it a quiet house? Now, if it's quiet, is it a peaceful quiet, or is it a lonesome quiet? What kind of sounds fill your house? Is your house a house of order? Is it too orderly to live like a museum? Or is it so disorderly that it's like a pigsty, and you don't wish to invite anybody over because it's too much work to get it ready? Are you a family of service and generosity? How about this one? What's your house smell like? What's your home smell like? Yeah, we all know homes have distinctive odors.